I have been fascinated since when I was a kindergartner. My mother read to me this book of Greek myths. Specifically, it was the Trojan War, the Iliad and the Odyssey, and this illustrations, wonderful illustrations done, and it was based on the Greek pottery. But these stories just obsessed me from very little. I can go back and see my drawings when I was 5 years old, Willie, and it had Greeks and Romans. I couldn't spell Greek, and they were all in these armor doing these battles. So I was fascinated from the beginning, and I've never let go, really. I've been fascinated with this, and so when I formed the theater company, it was a lot of the pieces that were back in my mind. In fact, the majority of them were based on the ancient Greek themes. In Dionysus in Hell, Aristophanes had Dionysus going into the underworld to bring back the spirit of Aeschylus. And so we decided to have him go and bring back the spirit of Grotowski. I'm strongly drawn to Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell, and then Karenye, Eliade, these people who talk in terms of the universals about the psyche, about the person, about the inner self, and things that go between different civilizations, between different people that are, as James Joyce said, what's grave and constant in the human condition. I'd also say what's silly and human in the human condition. That also is archetypal. And that I like to work in those things, that realm. The image that Joseph Campbell uses, it's like a shaman who goes into what is underneath the spirit, what's underneath the soul, and goes there and comes back with something, and that's the artist's journey. And I think that's also the shape of most theater, too, that you go in, something happens and it's transformed. It follows the shamanistic structure. There are also stories that spin out into other stories, that you see all these things connecting to it. Philoctetes isn't that well known, or the Greek tragedies of Sophocles, probably the least known, but it spins out. He's on this desert island, just like Prospero in The Tempest. He's wounded very much like the Fisher King in Parsifal. All the things that he goes through, that it's very much like all these stories that connect. And it's like you get one story, it connects to another story, connects to another story. The new technology has been wonderfully liberating, that many of the things I had envisioned years ago are now feasible. That the high-definition video camera is a good enough picture to really use in the theater. Suddenly it became economically feasible to make these amazing images. It became economically feasible to put them up on the wall. And by economically feasible, it means that we can do what we want. That when it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to do something, you have to go with somebody else who doesn't have the vision, usually, almost always. But if it just costs a few $100s, you do what you want, and you do it just the way you want it, and the audience can be there for what the real vision is. For the past 30 years, we've been working on things, never stopping. And the collaboration that we do has produced some work that I'm very excited about still, and much of it I feel a need to do and have more people see. One of the first pieces was Night Spirit, which I worked many years on and basically became a dancer in order to do. And I worked on it with Alex Klein, and it was based on the cave paintings. And at one point I hoisted a giant painting of a tree and changed from animal to animal. And in this piece, while it was evolving, I evolved a vocal technique and also the collaboration with Alex. And so it was an exciting piece that way. And then we did another piece, Petros, that was based on the apostle Peter and his problems with what the real spiritual truth was and what his understanding was, the difference between them, and trying for transcendence and having a difficult time finding it, but also the exuberance of the spirit. That was wonderful to do, and I had a brass ensemble that was great, like a choir of brass. Another piece that we did that I would love to do again is No Man's Return, based on the Odyssey. And in No Man's Return, it's mostly from the suitors' viewpoint, who are very modern in their viewpoint. They're very silly, but they have profound questions that they're very silly about. And so this kind of juxtaposition of that. And then the character I played was No Man, which was Odysseus, and he's basically a homicidal, homeless person, not quite of sound mind. And that's a great character to play. I'd love to do that again, and I think it has some of the most interesting writing that I've done, and great parts for the characters too, I'd like to think. Then another piece that I'm excited about is Dionysus in Hell, based on the story of the frogs in Aristophanes, but instead of looking for Aeschylus, he's going down to bring back the spirit of Grotowski, and comes back with Hijikata, very modern, very, I think, Dionysian theater people who have theater that is intense and extreme and at the same time archetypal and universal. And so that's where he's going, but it's a clown piece. It's a clown piece with these strange special effects. And so that's a piece we've done, but it hasn't reached full life. And a lot of my pieces that I feel that way, that I'd love to have them reach a fuller life, have an audience, have a chance to see them, and have them fully developed.
Rot visions. Than eager meals of feathers, than frayed stained cloths that find a wound.
So there are a lot of stories that we've already done that I think we have further steps that I'd like to go in development on. Phylactetes even, which I'm extremely pleased with. You know, I think the collaboration was wonderful, and the visuals the strongest of anything I've worked on. But there's a whole other part to it. There's a part of the story that will be played out, the story of Hercules and his relationship to Phylactetes, playing that out, again in an abstract sort of way, and in a musical and a visual sort of way. We don't go with other people's pieces, we create our own, but draw from different sources, and also within the ensemble. There's an enormous creativity, and we're delighted to bring in new creativity into it, new expressions into it. We're always wanting, to have new people. The term open gate, part of that is that we want new things coming into it. We want to be open to that. And